Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to you. And how are you all doing this morning? Let's quickly confirm that we're on the same page. So let's quickly do this. So if you can see my screen and you can hear my voice clearly, kindly type in hi in the comment section so that we can get the session started. So I want to see some response. So if you can see my screen, you can hear my voice clearly, kindly type in hi in the comment section. Let's get this party started. Okay, Carrie, good morning to you. Thank you very much for that confirmation. Okay, I can see Guston in the house. Good morning. Thank you. Thank you, Mais. Good morning. All right. So I want to take this as a confirmation that we're all on the same page. So it's a beautiful Thursday here, and I'm excited to welcome you to yet another promising session on the Extra Speed Life Hub. My name is Sheriff Daramola, and in the next 1 hour, I shall be your host, where I will be taking you through a trading journey where we shall be evaluating the financial market using technical parameters to identify trading opportunities lining up for us today. Well, as usual, we are going to be reviewing all the pairs we've been monitoring since the beginning of the week. We are going to be looking at how well those pairs are doing, after which we are going to be planning and making a decision on what will be the next line of action against the New York session. And also, if you have any pair or commodity you want us to look at, feel free to drop it in the comment section, and let's see how I can include it to be part of our trading analysis for today. So without further ado, let's dive into the chart and let's see what's going on in the market right now. As usual, the first pair we are going to be looking at is the US oil, and in the last 24 hours, we've been seeing this bearish momentum that has indeed taken over the market as price has continued to find lower lows and lower highs. Now, if we look at the current structure we have here on the 1 hour time frame, the first thing we'll observe here is that we finally witnessed the breakdown of that bullish trend line around this area here. So we finally witnessed that breakdown of that structure, hereby emphasizing the strength of the sellers at that point. Now, where are we as at yesterday? We were around this level yesterday where I told you that I already opted out of that trade after seeing buying pressure right around that bullish trend line. And I was thinking that there is a likelihood that price might continue to the upside after citing buying pressure on our lower time frame to take advantage of that trend continuation to the upside. But that did not happen, as we saw a final breakdown of that trend line to give us a signal that the bearish momentum is coming in. And immediately, I think within a couple of hours, we saw the retest of that structure, and we saw two rejection of that trend line to give us another leverage to join the decline to the downside. Well, I told you yesterday that even if price breaks down that structure, I would not be selling, and I did not sell. Well, and price continued to rally down to the downside. As we can see here, price moved over how many pips in profit that is. That's over 250 pips. I missed that out. But for those who took advantage of that move, kudos to you for being on standby to take advantage of that trade. Well, the reason why I said I wouldn't be selling at that point was because of the fact that we had a breakout of the $86 level. Remember the very important key level on the daily time frame, which was broken last week. And we saw a retest of that structure again during the course of last week's trading session, which gave me a clue that even if price breaks down that bullish trend line, we might be seeing a situation where price will come back into the $86 area. Then we'll be looking out for buying pressure around this area to join the rally to the upside. But that, unfortunately, that did not happen, as price continued to trade to the downside in such a way that we had this breakdown of the $86 level. And in the last 10 hours now, price has been caught within a consolidation phase right around the $85 level, which at this point in time I will be labeling it as my demand zone. And the reason why I'm labeling this area as a demand zone is simply because of what happened in the past. You can see we have a structure around here. Last week, which happened last week, we saw the structure here, we saw the buy zone here, and I'm of the opinion that since we already have this, we have a memory for buying power around this area. There is a tendency that price might likely come here again to give us another buying momentum from this area. So the consolidation phase here simply tells us of how participants in this market are caught within an indecision right now, as they are waiting for structure, a signal that will be inciting the next move. So going into the New York session today, what is going to be our plan on the US oil? Well, the first thing I want us to do here is to scale up to the daily time frame. Let's look at what is really happening on the daily time frame since the breakdown of this bullish trend line, and then the breakdown of the $86 level. Are we still going to be hoping for that buying momentum, or are we going to be getting ready to join the decline to the downside? So this is something we want to look at, and in order to do this, we want to scale up to the daily time frame so that we can have an holistic view of what is really going on in this market right now. Now, on the daily time frame, I have been saying this at the opt-ins time of how we've been on a very strong bullish momentum in the last 2 years. As you can see here, we have this bullish trend line. The green line on your screen has been serving as a guide for bullish momentum in the last 2 years. Well, but that is not the most important structure at this point in time. The most important structure at this point in time is the $86 area, which has been a very strong determinant of price action in the last 3 to 4 months. And if we look into the structure closely, we can see how the $86 level, as at one point in time in the month of August, it was serving as a buying niche for participants in this market. Though we saw another buying pressure around here during the early days of the month of September, but this wasn't strong enough as a strong resistance from the sellers pushed price to break down that structure, and throughout the month of September, price has continued to trade right below the $86 area. And what this simply tells us at that point in time is that the sellers were actually strong at that point, and there is a tendency that we could be having a bearish momentum. But lo and behold, on the month of October, we saw the final breakout of that $86 level, which also lines up with a bearish trend line here to give us a bullish signal. And whenever we have a breakout of a structure, we expect that price is likely going to come back, do a retest of structure to incite the trend continuation to the upside. This is what happened like 3 weeks ago. We enjoyed that move after we cited the breakout of the $86 area here. So we took advantage of the breakout retest of the structure to push price to the upside. But as soon as price got into the $93.50 level, just like what it did here during the first couple of weeks in the month of October, we saw selling pressures around here, and the same thing happened during the course of the week, as we have been witnessing selling pressure since the beginning of this week to push price right back into the $86 level, which also shares a confluence with that bullish trend line that we identified earlier. So now going into the New York session today, what is really going to be our plan here? Now, if we look at the current structure here, as we can see selling pressure right around $93.50 level. Price came back into the $82 area. Then we saw another move back into the $93.50 level, but price wasn't able to stay there for that long, as we saw the sharp rejection of that level to emphasize the strength of the sellers around this area. So all attempt by the buyers to push price right above the $93.50 level has been met with strong resistance from the sellers. And as you can see, we saw this huge engulfing candle in the last couple of days now, taking price right back into the $86 area. And for me at this point, it is important we know here that the sellers are indeed very, very strong. So what we are going to be doing as we head into the New York session is simply to understand what is really going on right around the $86 area here, which also shares a confluence with the key level, with the bullish trend line, the green bullish trend line you can see on your screen right now. So we really need to understand what is going on here. Well, if we look at it from this daily time frame, there are two possibilities that could happen. We could see buying pressure around here to push price to continue to the upside, or we could actually see a breakdown of that structure, after which a retest should be giving us leverage to join the decline to the downside. So in order to understand what is really going on around here, let's scale back down to our 1 hour time frame and let's make a decision based on the current structure that we will be seeing therein. Now back to the 1 hour time frame. The first thing that you will observe is that as soon as price, we saw this impulsive move coming right back into the $85 level. So we saw this impulsive move that started the week. Hold on a second. I want to give you a visual representation of what I'm talking about here. So we have this impulsive move that took price right down into the $85 area. And since then, price has been caught within a consolidation phase, emphasizing the indecision in this market right now. So what we want to be doing at this area is to understand what the structure around the $85 area is going to be giving us. Are we going to be having a reversal pattern that will turn this area back into the demand zone that it was last week, or we could be seeing price break down that structure to incite a trend continuation to the downside? So in this regard, we want to understand what is going on here, and I think the best way we can do that is to scale down to a much lower time frame. Let's say the 15 minutes time frame, where we want to see what the structure around that area will be giving us. So now if we look at the current structure here on the 15 minutes time frame, well, first of all, we have the resistance level had the $85 mark. Let me adjust this a little bit so that we can see what I'm talking about here. Let me place this right at the top. Okay, so we have the resistance level here, and what we notice right around the $85 area is that we have been witnessing selling pressure around this level since the later part of the New York session yesterday, to give us a clue that the sellers are still very strong at this point. However, we've been seeing buying pressure around this area. So what we are going to be doing here is to connect the support level there and use that as a yardstick for trading activities for the New York session today. So I will be connecting this level, and what do we have here? I think we have the $84.60 level. So let's quickly label this for the sake of clarity. So we have the $84.60 level. Let's place this right at the bottom. All right, okay, so we have the support level of this channel figured out already. So, and from a technical standpoint, when we look at this closely, this is looking more like a bearish rectangular pattern, which is a trend continuation pattern, obviously. So we have this impulsive move right into the $84.60 level, and since then price has been caught within a consolidation phase. And from a technical standpoint, a theoretical standpoint, when we see a bearish rectangular pattern like this, we are looking forward to a breakdown of that structure like this. Breakdown retest of the structure should give us further confirmation that price is likely going to be going further to the downside at this point. So we want to be getting ourselves prepared if we cite a breakdown retest of the $84.60 area. So let me do this. So we label it right here. So we are going to be putting a sell here, and we are going to be selling the breakdown retest of the structure. So a breakdown retest of that structure should be giving us that signal to join the decline to the downside. However, it's always important that we take into consideration other perspective that might likely happen at this point, so that we don't get caught up in a dilemma when we see sudden spike or sudden evolution of price movement. So what I want to say here is that should price not break down significantly that $84.60 area, and we start seeing situations where price continue to climb to the upside, well, if a breakout of the $85 level happens, this might likely turn out to be a bullish signal, which for me at this point might be the incitation of the retracement of the impulse leg that we had here. So we could have a retracement back into the structure. Remember, we had this bullish trend line broken on the 1 hour time frame. We had a breakdown retest of this trend line. on the 1 hour time frame. And from a technical standpoint, whenever we have a breakdown of a structure like this, we expect that one point in time price might likely come back to do a retest of that structure to incite a trend continuation to the downside. So if we cite a breakout of the $85 level, there is a tendency that a retest of structure might send price going back into this bullish trend line to retest it one more time, after which if we start seeing selling pressure right around that area on lower time frame, then we want to be taking advantage of a trend continuation to the downside. So this is what we are going to be looking at on the US oil. And for those who like taking counter trend opportunities, and if we have that breakout of the $85 level, you might want to join the this counter trend right back into the structure with your take profit target somewhere around the $88 area and the $89 area. Let's place it like that. And as soon as price moves in our favor, you want to be moving your stop loss accordingly to protect your position, because we are actually on a downtrend scenario since the beginning of the week. So we don't want to get caught up in any sudden pullback that might take us out of our position in a loss. So if price continues to climb to the upside after a breakout retest of structure, you might want to take advantage of that and then move your stop loss accordingly as price continue to move in that direction. And if a breakout of the $86 level happen, retest of structure should welcome additional position to the existing trade. So this is how we want to be looking at this. So if you are not a counter trend trader, well, I will advise that you hold on and let's see how price action is going to be relating to this bullish trend line that was broken during the course of yesterday's trading session. So this is my view on the US oil, and I hope I was able to make things clear enough for you. If you have any questions whatsoever regarding what I've just discussed, feel free to drop in your inquiries in the comment section, and let's see how I can be of help in that regard. So I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to read through the chat and see if there are any questions whatsoever that you might want us to look at. Okay. So let's take some time to read through the chats. So what do we have in the chats here? What do we have in the chat right now? All right. Okay. So we have Lemble77. Okay. Good morning to you. How are you doing today? All right. We also have Faber. Okay. Chateau Victor. Good morning. All right. Tony Gold. Good morning. 853. Good morning. All right. It's okay. Oh, all right. In the absence of no question, I guess this is well explained. So let's move on to the next pair and let's see what is happening therein. So the next pair we are going to be looking at right now is the US Tech, the option US Tech. Okay. And so what do we have here on the US Tech? Well, we have a quite interesting scenario here that happened yesterday. We saw this huge sell momentum that okay, let's quickly do a replay of what our expectations were yesterday. And as at yesterday's live session, we were around this point yesterday, right along that bullish trend line here. And remember, we identified this bullish trend line after connecting the series of higher lows since the later part of last week's trading session. And this trend line has been guiding bullish momentum since the beginning of the week. Now, what we said here yesterday is that if we consider the fact that we saw the selling pressure at the $11,200 level and followed by selling pressure here, as we can see, price was unable to break the previous high here, we already suspected that there could be a bearish momentum during the New York session yesterday. And one thing I said here yesterday is that for us to take advantage of that move, we want to look out and be patient to look out for a signal that will give us that confirmation to join that decline. And we were looking for a signal in the form of the breakdown retest of that bullish trend line to give us further confirmation to join that decline to the downside. And this is exactly what happened here. Let's zoom into the current structure so that we can see things more clearly. So we had the breakdown of the structure during the, I think, an hour or so after the live session. So we saw the breakdown of the structure. Price came back to do a retest of the $11,000 MAC, and then we saw sharp rejection of that level, selling pressure on lower time frame to incite that move to the downside at that point. In fact, we had a couple of rechecks of that $11,000 MAC, which gave us a clue that we should be getting ready to join that selling opportunity. And I want to congratulate those who took advantage of that move, as right now you will be in about over 200 pips in profit at this point. So going into the New York session today, what is going to be our plans for the US tech? Well, for me on the US tech, the position is already closed, but for those who are still in this trade, who are still thinking of joining the ride, if possible, if the market is going to be giving us that leverage, well, I will be advising you to move your stop loss. If you are not yet out of this trade, move your stop loss somewhere right above the $10,850 level, somewhere around above this level. As you can see, since price tested the 10,000, where is that? $10,800 MAC, we saw that price has been caught within a consolidation phase, and that is a sign that we might be having a trend continuation pattern at this point. So what we want to be doing here as we head into the New York session is to identify what is really going on around here. What is really going on around here, and let's use that as a leverage to decipher what will be the next line of action. But before we go into that, look at what has been happening here in the last 24 hours. We can see selling pressure right below the $10,850 area, and it's a very good sign that selling momentum might actually continue on this one. Now, if we bring out our line charts to identify the support level of this channel, we will have something like this. Hold on a second. Okay. So we have the $10,800. We are still going to bring back our candle charts to do some readjustments if need be. Okay, so just perfect. So we have the $10,800 level around this area, which is the support level. And looking at what we have here since yesterday, we have this impulsive move right down into the 10,800. And since yesterday, since the early hours of this morning, we saw price caught within a consolidation phase. So this is more or less looking like a trend continuation pattern in the form of a bearish rectangular pattern. And from a technical standpoint like this, if we are looking at a bearish rectangular pattern, we expect that price is likely going to break down that support level to give us a bearish signal, after which a retest on lower time frame should be giving us further confirmation to join the decline to the downside. So this is what we are going to be looking forward to going into the New York session today on the US tech. So we want to be looking at a breakdown of the $10,800 area to give us a confirmation that we want to be selling the US tech. Now, before I call it a day on the US tech, let's quickly scale up to the higher time frame. Remember, we have this breakdown of the bullish trend line that we identified earlier here, and are we not going to see a situation where price might come back? Are we not going to see a bullish momentum that would take price right back into either the structure here or the structure here to send price crashing to the downside? So let's quickly look at what is going on the higher time frame. Let's see if there is that possibility or not. So now on the daily time frame, obviously price action has been on a bearish momentum since the beginning of the year. And as a result of that, we had this bearish trend line after connecting the series of lower highs here to give us that resultant bearish trend line. But the most interesting structure here is the demand zone on this chart. Remember, we had a demand zone right around the $11,000 area, a sign that the buyers were trying as much as possible to negate all selling pressure from that area, as all attempt by the sellers to push price right below the $11,000 area has been met with strong resistance from the buyers. The same thing also happened during the early days of the month of October, as we saw buying pressure right around that area as well. But the buying pressure around that area wasn't strong enough to carry price back into the trend line that we have here. As we can see what happened around the $11,700 area, selling pressures around that area continued to push down the demand zone right below the $11,000 area, and as a result of this, we had a new demand zone at around the $10,600 area. And since the beginning of the week, though we had this impulsive move, remember we took advantage of this move at the beginning of the week. Hold on a second, let me show you. We took advantage of this move at the beginning of the week as price moved into the trend line here. Let me show you again. So we have this trend line. After price broke down this trend line in the month of September, price has been trading right below that trend line, emphasizing the strength of the sellers at this point. Though we had a little breakout of that structure here, but immediately price evolved into a reversal pattern, pushing price right back below that level again. Now we had a retest at the beginning of the week of that trend line, which led into an engulfing candle, taking price right further down. And this is more or less a sign that the sellers are really very strong at this point. So what I'm saying here is, are we going to be looking forward to another trend continuation to the downside from this area? So this is today's candle. We can see what it's giving us here. So let's scale down to the 1 hour time frame. Let's scale back. Let's look at the structure we have here, and let's use that as a decision, as a plan, as a parameter to guide our trading activity for today. So we have two scenarios that we might want to be looking forward to. The first one is a possible situation where price comes back into this trend line to push price to the downside, or we could be having a trend continuation pattern around here that will push price to finally break down the demand zone here. So if price breaks down the demand zone here, taking out all the buy position here, then definitely we want to be seeing this as a bearish signal, after which a retest of structure should be giving us further confirmation to add more position to our existing trade. So right now we'll scale down to the 1 hour time frame. Let's see what is happening around there, and let's use the structure we have there to make a decision here. So like I said earlier, we already identified the bearish rectangular pattern. So we are looking forward to a breakdown of the structure, retest of this level to give us further confirmation to join the decline to the downside. So we are waiting for that to happen. But if that does not happen and we start seeing a situation where price breaks out of the $10,850 level, well, I want to be seeing this as a retracement move, the incitation of a retracement move that might push price back into either the trend line that was broken yesterday. At this point, remember we had this trend line broken, so there is a likelihood that price might come back to do a retest of that structure. So if you're a counter trend trader, you might want to take advantage of that move at the breakout retest of the $10,850 level to join the rally to the upside. But if you are not a counter trend trader, well, if a breakout of that level happens, I would advise that you remain patient and wait for price action to either give us selling pressure right around here, or right below the $11,200 level, which also lines up with that bullish trend line that was broken yesterday. So this is what we are going to be looking forward to on the US tech. So if you have any questions whatsoever regarding what I've just discussed so far, feel free to drop in your inquiries in the comment section of this video. So let's see what's happening in the chat. I'll be taking the next 10-15 seconds to read through the chat and see if there are any questions whatsoever before we move on to the next pair. Okay, so we have 603 in the house. Good morning, 603. How are you doing today? Hey, innocent babe, how are you doing? Good morning. I'm doing fine, thank you. Hope you are doing well. All right, so we have Petro Gabriel, salutations. Okay, good morning to you as well. We have Jala, we have 186093009. Good morning. And good morning. Okay, we have Tony Gold. All right. Okay, innocent babe, glad to hear you're doing fine. All right, so in the absence of the questions, I guess it's high time we moved on to the next pair. So the next pair we are going to be looking at is obviously the EURUSD. And on the EURUSD, we have a situation going on right now which is supporting a bearish momentum at this point in time. Let's quickly do a replay of what our expectations were yesterday. And if we look at the structure we have here, where are we as at yesterday? We were around where? Okay, I think we were around here yesterday. Okay, we were around here yesterday, right above the 1.003400 level. And remember, at the beginning of the week, we took advantage of this, though we missed this move. We missed this breakout of this channel here as it happened so fast. So we were expecting that price would likely come back and do a retest of structure to give us a leverage to join that rally to the upside. Remember, we had a significant breakout of that important key level, had a $1 mark here. So we saw the breakout of that key level, emphasizing that we might be having a bullish momentum. Remember, the key level, that key level at the $1 mark has been a strong selling niche for participants in this market since the beginning, I think in the last 2 to 3 months now. And a little citation of that breakout of that structure was a sign that buyers appear to be coming in the market right now. Though we had the retest of structure here, we had a reversal pattern on Tuesday, and we took advantage of the breakout of that structure as price moved into the 1.0100 level. And as soon as price got into the 1.0100 level, we started seeing selling pressure right around that area. And one thing I said here yesterday was that we want to remain patient, as we see the selling pressure here does not support any bullish momentum at this point. So in that regard, this might likely be the beginning of a retracement of the previous impulse leg that began last week. So we had this impulse leg that began last week that culminated at around the 1.0100 level. And from a technical standpoint, whenever we have a full-blown impulsive move like this, definitely at one point in time there is going to be some profit taking going on in the market, which is going to be reflecting on the chart as a retracement move. And what we saw immediately price got into the 1.0100 level was quite interesting, as we saw selling pressure right around that area to give us a clue that there is a possibility that price might continue to trade to the downside. So what we did here is this. Since we already had that situation running, I told you yesterday, let's look out for selling pressure to join that decline. And before I go into how we join the decline, I said something about buying the EURUSD, where I said if price breaks out of the 1.0100 level, retest of structure might be giving us a leverage to join that rally to the upside, but that did not happen. So we identified the 1.003400 level here, and we said if we have a breakdown of that structure and price continue to show signs of breaking down the $1 mark, we want to be joining that decline to the downside. So I actually shared this on my TradingView platform this morning when we cited this tendency of a breakdown of the structure as selling pressures continue right around the 1.00340 area. And what happened afterward was quite interesting. Price broke down the $1 mark. We saw a quick rejection of that level on our lower time frame, and my sell limit was triggered, and price has continued to move in our direction. So for those who are taking advantage of this move right around this area, kudos to you for being on standby to take advantage of that move. And for those who are actually taking it from this level, well, that's a very good good target for you to have joined that decline from that area. So right now we will be running with about at least a minimum of, let's say, 58 pips thereabout for those who are joined right below the $1 area. And remember, we identified the TP target to be somewhere within the 0.99050 level and the 0.9800 area. Remember, this is our gold, this is our golden zone area after bringing out our Fibonacci retracement, so running it through the previous impulse leg here. So we had the area between the 50 and the 78.6 figured out as an area we are looking for our take profit target for any selling opportunity on the EURUSD, and price appears to be heading in that direction. So what I'll be advising us to do here is to move your stop loss accordingly to protect your position. You could either move it to break even or move it to somewhere right around the 0.99840 level to lock in some profit at this point, as we never can tell when the second wave of this bullish momentum that began last week is going to begin. So we don't know when it's going to begin, the second wave. So let's keep our position locked in so that we don't get caught out in any sudden pullback that might likely happen at this point. So now, as prices continue to move in our direction, well, there is a catch here. Remember, we had this bullish trend line. Hold on a second. Let's go to the 3 hours time frame. Let's go to the 3 hours time frame here. As you can see here on the 3 hours time frame, look at the situation we have here. So we saw this bullish trend line here figured out after connecting the series of higher lows. I think that is very visible on your screen right now. So we can see, though we had a little breakdown of that structure here, but immediately price climbed up, which resulted in that bullish engulfing candle that took price right into the 1.00100 level. And if you look at the 1.0010 level, I'm just saying this is more or less a sign that there might be selling momentum continuing on this one. We don't know if this TP target is going to be extended, but one thing I will say for sure here, as soon as price gets into this trend line here, which also lines up with the 0.99050 level, move your stop loss again right below the 0.99450 area to lock in some profit, and let's see how price action is going to be relating to the structure. So if price moves there, please, I would advise here, based on the current structure I'm seeing here, identifying the selling pressure around this 1.0100 level area. I'm of the opinion that we might be seeing a situation where price breaks down that trend line. Hold on a second. Breaks down that trend line or breaks down that 0.99050, retest it to send price going further to the downside. So if price continues to in that direction and we see price around the 0.99050, you want to extend your TP to somewhere around the 0.97500 area, an area which has a memory for buying power in the past. We can see what happened here during the first days of this month. We saw buying pressure from this area. So let's see if we are going to be having the same situation where price might likely come back to that area. So that is how we want to be looking at the EURUSD going into the New York session today. Now, for any bullish momentum here, what is it that we are going to be looking out for to be sure that a bullish momentum has come in? That is, if price does not want to go this far to the 0.97500. Well, what I'll be advising us to do here, we have two structures we want to be looking at. We have the 0.99050 area, which also lines up with that bullish trend line, remember? And we also have the buy zone we identified around the 0.9800 and the 0.9900 level. So what we want to be seeing to buy the EURUSD is to see price come into the structure, followed by buying pressure on lower time frame. It could evolve into a reversal pattern in the form of a double bottom structure or a inverse head and shoulder breakout, retest on lower time frame. Then we could join the rally to the upside, and if price finally breaks out of the 1.0100 level, retest of structure should be giving us further confirmation to add more position to our existing trade. So that is one. So this place is also very important to look out for buying opportunity. So that is why I said as soon as price gets into this area, we want to move our stop loss to somewhere around the 0.99450 level to lock in some profit at this point. Then if price continues to break down that 0.99050, the buy zone that we have around here is also an area to look out for reversal patterns in the form of either a double bottom structure, head and shoulder pattern, falling wedge, whatever pattern it is. Then we want to be joining that rally at a breakout retest on our lower time frame. So that is how we are going to be looking out for buying opportunities on the EURUSD. So our sell buyers still out here. For those who are still in this trade, kindly move your stop loss accordingly, lock in some profit so that we don't get caught up in any sudden pullback that might likely happen at this point. So that is that on the EURUSD. Let's move on to the next pair and let's see what we have there as well. So the next pair we are going to be looking at today is the GBPUSD. And what is happening on the GBPUSD? We also have the selling momentum going on right here. So let's quickly do a replay of what our expectations were yesterday. So where were we yesterday? Where were we yesterday? Okay, we were around here. We already had this bearish momentum running during the live session yesterday. We were around this point yesterday, and price has continued to move to the downside. to finally break down that very important key level at the 1.1400 level. Why do I call it important? Well, I will be showing you that in a moment, but let's quickly do a replay of what our expectations were yesterday and where we are this morning. So we saw the price break down the 1.1400 level, and during the course of the last 24 hours, price came back to do a retest of that 1.1400 level to give us another opportunity to add more position to our existing trade. And throughout the early hours of today, we saw how that level below the 1.1400 level had been a strong selling niche for participants in this market. So because of the appearance of selling pressure around this area, we're looking forward to selling right below the 1.1400 level, and lo and behold, the position was triggered and price has continued to move in our direction. Well, at this point in time, if we look at what we've been enjoying in the last couple of days now, we should be in approximately how many pips in profit right now? Over 150 pips in profit right now. So you want to be locking in your profit, locking in your position, and I think somewhere below the 1.143390 area looks promising to lock in your profit. Below that level seems most appropriate at this point, and let's see how price action is playing out. Now, there's one thing we stated here yesterday. We noticed the breakout of the structure, which gave us that bullish momentum we took advantage of at the beginning of the week. Remember, we took advantage of this move on Monday. We took this bullish momentum to the upside after citing the breakout of this bearish trend line, which I will be showing you in a moment on our higher time frame. So we saw the breakout of the structure. And one thing I stated here yesterday was that this selling momentum can lead into a situation where price might come back to do a retest of that structure, which is exactly what happened during the New York session yesterday. We saw the retest of that structure, and I don't know if this retest of structure is going to evolve into a double bottom structure, that is a reversal pattern like this, and probably the selling momentum here might not be able to break the previous low here and evolve into a breakout of the neckline at the 1.14 area to incite a trend continuation to the upside. So these are possibilities that could happen around this area. So let's scale up to the daily time frame. Let's see what is happening there, and we'll come back here to make a decision on what our next line of action is going to be like for today. So now going into the daily time frame on the GBPUSD, what is the first thing we observe here? Well, on the GBPUSD, it's obvious that price action has been on a long-term bearish momentum, a momentum that has been holding selling pressure since the beginning of the year, and we have this bearish trend line figured out after connecting the series of lower highs. But the most important structure around this area, like I told you when we were discussing on the 1 hour time frame, is the 1.1400 level. And look at how that level has been a strong determinant of price action in the last 3 to 4 months now. As we can see what happened here in the month of September, this level was holding buying pressure for like 2 to 3 weeks before we witnessed the breakdown of that structure. From a technically, if we have a breakdown of a structure like this, we expect that price might likely come back to do a retest of structure, which is exactly what happened here. And the same thing happened like 3 weeks ago. Also, we saw the as soon as price got into this level, we saw selling pressure right around that area, which led into another breakout of that structure. Price broke down again that 1.1400 level, and at the beginning of the week, we saw the breakdown of this bullish trend line, and we said, okay, fine, let's see how price is going to relate to the structure. Are we going to be having a reversal pattern that will push price further to the downside, or are we going to be having a situation where price climbs to the upside, breaks out that structure, retest to send a bullish signal? Now, what are we having here? So we saw now how that bearish trend that has been holding price action in the last 1 year has been holding selling pressure in the last couple of weeks now. So we saw that as soon as price gets into that trend line, we'll see selling pressure pushing price to the downside. The same thing also happened at the beginning of the week. We saw selling pressures again pushing price right to the downside, and in fact price is again right below the 1.1400 level, which has been a strong selling niche for participants in this market. So what does that tell us? It tells us that the selling pressure here might continue to the downside at this point, as we already have a breakdown of this bullish trend line here. We have a retest of that structure. which lines up with the technical expectation of a breakout structure. Now we have a scenario here. I'm of the opinion that we might be having a trend continuation to the downside, judging from the current structure we have in the market. The only thing that will state otherwise here is if a breakout of this trend line happens, probably price climbs up above the 1.1400 level, then probably we could have a bullish signal, a retest of structure giving us further confirmation to join the rally to the upside. But if that does not happen and price continue to trade right below the 1.1400 level, well, I want to be holding on to my sell position at that point. So let's go back to the 1 hour time frame. With the understanding we have here on the daily time frame, I think when I go back to the 1 hour time frame, we could relate better with the current structure that we have. So right back to the 1 hour time frame here, as price action has continued to be trading right below the 1.14, let's hope that price is going to break the previous low here. So what I'll be doing here is that we just identify the structure here, the support level of this consolidation phase that we are observing right now. So let me bring out my line chart. All right, so we have this level here figured out. So for those who had missed out on this opportunity right below the 1.14 area, we could be looking forward to let me see, 1.13450, I guess. So let's label this area for the sake of clarity. So 1.13450 level. All right, okay. So for those who had missed out on this opportunity here, that is right below the 1.14 area, well, we might be looking to add more position to this trade, or for those who missed out and still want to join this decline, if we have a breakdown of the 1.13450 level during the New York session today, well, that should be giving us a leverage, another opportunity to add more position to our existing trade. So if we have that breakdown structure happen, well, we want to be patient enough to wait for a retest to happen in the form of retest of the structure, followed by selling pressure on our lower time frame. Then we could join the decline to the downside. So this is how we want to be looking at the euro, the GBPUSD going into the New York session today. Now there's something I want to stay here. Remember that we identified this trend line which has been guiding selling momentum since last week. Let me show you. We had this trend line figured out, has been guiding selling pressure since the later part, since last week trading session, and we saw the breakout of that structure during the early days of this week, giving us a sign that that bearish trend line can no longer hold selling pressure anymore. So we had a breakout of that structure, and from a technical standpoint, whenever we have a breakout of structure, there is a likelihood that price might come back to do a retest of that structure, which is exactly what has happened here. We saw bullish momentum from that area, but this bullish momentum appears to be sellers appear to be resisting this bullish momentum right around the 1.14 area. So we have selling momentum here, and there is a tendency for price to go to the downside. Well, now the caveat is this: since we already have a retest of the structure now, what happens if price cannot break the previous low here? Well, so like I said, if that does not happen and we see this could turn out to be a reversal pattern, it could turn out to be a double bottom structure, and a breakout of the 1.14 area could incite a reversal pattern into this area. Let me zoom out so that we can see my screen very well. So it could break out, retest that structure. So for me, that could be a counter trend trade. So for counter trend traders, a breakout retest of the 1.14 could give us a leverage to join a retracement back into the sell window here, which will be giving you around 100 to around 140 pips they are about to catch if price moves that way. Now, that is one scenario we want to be looking forward to. Want to get ourselves prepared for that possibility as well. So if price continues, well, for those who are taking around this area, please move your stop loss to break even because of this current structure we just identified here, and let's see what happens afterwards. Now, how did I get the sell window here? Well, we took into consideration this impulsive move to the downside, and if we do that, we bring out our Fibonacci retracement tool, run it through the previous impulse leg here, and we have somewhere between the 50 and the 78.6% of the previous impulse leg as our our golden zone area to look for selling opportunities. So if this retracement phase, if a breakout of the 1.14 happen, this might likely lead to a retracement back into the sell window area or somewhere around the 1.15400 level, where we want to be looking out for reversal patterns on lower time frame to join the trend continuation to the downside. Remember what we saw on the daily time frame. The structure we have on the daily time frame is tending towards a bearish momentum. So let's see how this plays out. And if price does not go as far as the sell window around here, and we see a breakdown of the 1.13450 level, well, that is an opportunity to add more position to our sell trade. So that is that on the GBPUSD. If you have any questions regarding what I've just explained so far, feel free to drop in your inquiries in the comment section, and let's see how I can be of help. 705, good morning. Plenica, good morning to you. Okay, Fridays, all right. Okay, we this is the Extreme Speed Live app, so we normally have this live session on a daily basis as we get ourselves prepared for the New York session. So we come here on a daily basis to analyze the financial markets using technical parameters to identify trading opportunities. So what we do, that's what we simply do here. And if you have any pair, commodity or cryptocurrency you want us to look at, you can feel free to drop it in the comment section, and I'll try as much as possible to inculcate it into my plans for today. But we're already out of time now, so you might want to join us tomorrow, and let's see how we can make things happen together. Okay, all right, so let's run the last pair we are going to be treating today. And the last pair we are going to be treating today is the XAUUSD. And on the XAUUSD, we also have an interesting situation here, as price action has been caught within the consolidation phase in the last 24, in fact in the last 2 days now, we have been caught within the $1,717 level and the $1,707 area. And what we've been seeing here is quite interesting, as this is like following this impulsive move we took advantage of at the beginning of the week. We saw our price was caught within a consolidation phase. In fact, we have one of the longest consolidation phase in a week right now, as price has been trading right within that range of the 1,717 and the $1,707 level. And we see buying pressure around this level, around the 1,707. That's a buying pressure, and we see selling pressure right above the structure here. And so what this tells us at this point is that there is an indecision in this market right now, as participants are yet to make a decision on where price might be going to as we prepare for the New York session. Let's see if there is any major economic event coming up today that the market might likely take advantage of. So let's bring this out and look at high impact events. Let's prune it down to high impact events. Okay, so for today we have the consumer price index coming up in an hour 30 minutes from now. So that's a very important key event that definitely participants in the market will be looking forward to. So let's be aware of this. So the huge out of that channel is going to be a very huge one. So whenever the breakout of that channel happens, it's going to be a huge one. Look at, we have a very long consolidation phase, and remember, from a technical standpoint, whenever we have a long consolidation phase like this, when a breakout happens, it's always massive. So we either have one or two. We have either a breakout to the upside to give us a trend continuation to the upside, or we could be having a retracement move in such a way that price breaks down the $1,707 level, giving us an engulfing candle, retest of structure on lower time frame. Then we could join the decline back to the downside here. So that is one scenario where what we want to be looking forward to on the XAUUSD. For those who are still in this trade since Monday, well, price is here to take us out of our position. Remember, we took advantage of this buy opportunity on Monday. Is it Monday or Tuesday? Yes. And we had our stop loss somewhere around below the $1,700 level, and price is yet to come within that level. So we are still in profit on this one, with about how many pips in profit right now? With over 3,000 pips in profit right now. So let's remain our stop loss right around the $1,700 level, and let's see what's going to be happening as we continue to monitor price action. So we have two scenarios we are looking forward to. On the XAUUSD, we could either have a breakout of the 1,717 to incite a trend continuation, or we could have a breakdown in such a way that price retraces back into the buy zone here, which also lines up with the bullish trend line that we have here, remember? And it also lines up with a very important key level at the $1,680 area. So remember, we had a key level at the $1,680 area. So we had a breakout of that structure, and from a technical standpoint, we expect that price might likely come back to do a retest of that structure. So if that happens, we want to get ready for buying pressure around here to join the rally to the upside. So that is that on the XAUUSD, and on this note, I want to call it a day. So for those who missed out from the beginning of the session, well, let's do a quick recap so that you can have a purview of what our expectations are for today. The first pair we looked at is the USOil, and we already have a breakdown of the $84.60 level. Are you in? If you are in, well done to you. Move your stop loss accordingly to lock in your profit at this point, as price action is going to be monitored. So we have a trend continuation pattern running on right now. So we have this. So let's see how far this is going to go. Just move your stop loss to break even to protect your position against any sudden pullback that might likely happen here. So the next pair we looked at is the US Tech, and on the US Tech we also have a channel already figured out right within the 10,850 and the $10,800 level. So we have two scenarios we are looking forward to on the US Tech. The first one is a breakout of the $10,850 level. Retest of structure could lead price right into the 11,200 where we want to be looking for selling opportunities to join the decline to the downside, or price could lead into this trend line here at the $11,000 mark to join price to the downside. So if you're a counter trend trader, you might want to take that move to the upside, but if you are not, we want to be patient enough to wait for price action to come to either below the 11,000 or the 11,200 to join the decline. But if price does not break out of the 10,850 and recites a situation where price breaks down the $10,800 level, lower time frame, check out your lower time frame, look out for retest of structure, then join the decline to the downside. Then we went on to talk about the EURUSD, where on the EURUSD, what do we have? What's happening to my chart here? I think I'm having a lag, the network lag. Yeah, let's hold on a little bit for this to. Let me refresh my chats. Unfortunately, I'm out of. Let's see what happens there. Okay, I'm back. Sorry for that break in transmission. All right, so we talked about what did we talk about? The last one we talked about. Okay, hold on a second, please. So we talked about the GBPUSD as well, and on the GBPUSD we continue to look for selling pressure here, right below the 1.1400 level as price continue to move to the downside here. But I said if we have a breakout of that structure, a retest of the 1.1400 level could incite a retracement back into the sell window area, where we want to be looking out for selling opportunities around here to join the decline to the downside here. But if that does not happen, we continue to stay in our sell position here. Remember, for those who took advantage of this move a couple of days ago, we have moved our stop loss to somewhere around the 1.14400 level, just right above that area is looking okay to keep our position locked in. Now we moved on to talk about the XAUUSD, the gold, which is the last pair we talked about for today, and I told you that we are within a strong channel between the 1,717 and the 1,707. So we are going to be looking for a signal in the form of either a breakout of that structure to the upside to incite a trend continuation to the upside, or a breakdown retest of the structure on lower time frame to join this retracement of the impulsive move that we took advantage of on Tuesday. So let's see how this plays out. If price breaks down and continues to the downside back into our buy zone, which also lines up with the 1680 level, well, we want to be looking out for buying opportunity there to join the rally to the upside. So this is what we are looking forward to going into the New York session today. On this note, I want to call it a day, and before I do, I want to wish you best of luck during the New York session, and also please don't get too caught up in breakout structures, signals in the form of a breakout. We want to wait for price to give us confirmation in the form of a retest before we want to be joining any decline. So we don't want to get too excited at the breakout of structure. So let's get ourselves prepared. I hope I was able to simulate all the possible scenarios that might likely happen for today. So our duty is to be on standby to take advantage of whatever of the scenarios that come up. So thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, same time, and let's come here again to analyze the financial market and get ourselves prepared for the New York session as usual. Thank you for watching and do have a wonderful day. Bye bye.